Hello and welcome to the Alumni House podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm the Quacker.
All right, Quacker. We are here to review Week 12 in college football. But before we do so, why don't you go ahead and hit us with the news and notes?
Yeah, so this will be a nice short segment of news and notes. We have really only one thing to talk about, and that's I was right. Virginia Tech came to their senses and hired an amazing coach. It's now official. James Franklin is the next head coach of the Virginia Tech Hokies. This is important for Penn State as well because of this deal. The $49 million he was owed from his buyout is being renegotiated down to $9 million. So that's a nice, smooth $40 million they're saving by Franklin taking this job. But I'm excited for the Virginia Tech fans and for Franklin. I think this is a perfect match. I think he's going to do an amazing job there rebuilding that program. He's going to recruit Virginia very well. He'll recruit Pennsylvania very, very well. So I think we'll see Virginia Tech being relevant again very shortly. So this is good news for the state of college football for the ACC as a conference. So good job, Virginia Tech.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a great hire, and I think I don't know how quickly it'll happen because I think the cupboard's pretty bare there, but I do think overall it's really good, and I think it'll be a net positive, however long it takes. Whether it's just a couple years or 3 or 4. So,
well, by hiring him this early in the process, because the season's still got a couple weeks to go, he can go ahead and get started on hiring staff, on recruiting. I know that like 19 players that were Penn State decommitted when he got fired. So he may be able to flip quite a few of those to Virginia Tech. That now that he's there. So in this era of college football, and the school has said they're going to put more resources into football. So in this era, you could probably turn around fairly quickly. It may not be next year, but I think they could be competitive next year. At least back in the bowl hunt next year, if not, hunting for a ACC championship.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think that's a really good point because whoever wound up getting Franklin right was going to have the advantage of what you just said. It's a very unique situation because he's a really good, proven head coach who's been consistently good, who was available before the season ended. So, he'll be able to start. I think there are some regulations where he can't actually have contact with the players or something until after the final game is played. So it's something like that. But conceivably, like the next day, because they're not going to go to a bowl game, he could be in Blacksburg, installing his program.
yeah.
And I think that is that's a really big advantage for Virginia Tech, and I think we knew that was going to be an advantage for whoever hired him, and it's starting to seem like whoever wins the Lane Kiffin lottery is going to get him, before the playoff, which sounds crazy, but the more I read and the more I hear, it seems like now it could come out of left field and be an NFL team, but it seems like the sweepstakes is pretty much Florida, Ole Miss, and LSU. And if he decides to go to Florida or LSU, it sounds like he will not be there for the playoffs, which is crazy. If they were to make the playoff and he wasn't there, but I get that's new college football, right? So,
Yeah. Now he did say on the Pat McAfee show today that that he has not been given any kind of ultimatum by Ole Miss. So
so
like that storyline that's out there about Ole Miss giving him an ultimatum
that's
that
yeah,
he
but
have to have an answer. That's not true.
well, that's not what I was referring to. I was referring to the
Okay.
fact.
Okay.
So in that report and another report, so the headline is misleading that a lot of the teams are running with, but what sources have reported is not that Ole Miss has given him a deadline, but that they would like to know by the end of next week, I think is what it was. And when you read the article, there isn't anything about an ultimatum, but the AD has spoken about wanting to know what to do for the playoff. So
Right.
I don't believe anyone's given anyone an ultimatum. Look, I think what has happened now is Lane Kiffin probably knows where he wants to be between those three schools, and he's letting Sexton do his thing to get the number where he wants it, or it may not even be money. It may be, because I know publicly he said money's not the thing, and that may not be, but it may be that there are other contract details that he's trying to get worked out. I think Lane Kiffin already knows the end result, and I think Jimmy Sexton already knows the end result. But I think they are using all of this to leverage better contract details for whatever the situation is. My gut tells me it's likely LSU or Florida, but who knows? I still lean Florida just because his wife is an alum, his son is a huge Florida fan, he grew up in Tampa. All of those things make me think Florida has an edge over LSU, if not necessarily the job being better. You know what I mean? But anyway, this was about James Franklin, but that is it's a great advantage for Virginia Tech and for Franklin. And I agree with you. Congratulations to both of them. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. And as always, we're going to start with Conference USA. And we've got two games. We haven't had a lot because they've been playing on Tuesday and Wednesday, but we have two games this week that we're going to discuss. And we will start
back to Saturday.
Yeah. And like a full slate. There were a couple of weeks there where I opened up the Conference USA page and there were like 3 games,
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with Delaware visiting Sam Houston, and Sam Houston edging out the victory. Did you get a chance to watch any of this one?
I did not. Conference USA, we've talked about this before. It's so hard to find their games a lot of times. Now I was traveling a lot this weekend with going to and from the Southern Miss games and stuff like that, and I was keeping up with some games, but only so much you can do when you're driving, and so this is one. I mean, they had to hold on because Delaware put up 13 points there in the fourth quarter, and they only put up a field goal. Thank goodness they did get that field goal there in the fourth quarter. That's this is their first conference win of the season, and only their second win overall in the season. We're talk so much about the Kennesaw State miracle. We're going to call it, where they're bowl eligible. They're right there competing for the a chance to play for the conference championship. On the reverse side of that, Sam Houston, they're not being competitive. So for them to beat Delaware, who has this is their first season, but they have been very competitive this season. They're in pretty much every game. So to come out and win your first game against a team that's been very competitive all season, the offense has been kind of rolling this season. Congratulations, Sam Houston, because that's a big deal for them. To actually come out and get that win.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's weird things are happening this time of year with all of the in all of the conferences. I feel like,
Yeah,
but yeah. So congratulations to Sam Houston. What's their mascot? The Bulldogs, Bearcats. Okay. All right. So next, a game we talked about in the preview, Kennesaw State traveling to Jacksonville State, and Jacksonville State wins the game 31-24. Now, we talked about this one, and I think we agreed it was going to be close. And, in the end, Jacksonville State just had a little bit more, but, both of these teams are 7-3. The obvious difference is Jacksonville State is undefeated in conference play. Kennesaw State has a loss. Mm-hmm. So, but it looked like a good game, and it looked like Kennesaw State made a push towards the end to come back and try and win the thing, and just were unsuccessful.
Yeah, 9 points. That it's still a 2-score game for Jacksonville State. This just Jacksonville State team. They kind of started out a little sluggish, but since they got into conference play, they have just run off. They've won 6 games in a row in conference play, but their offense has really woken up. And Kennesaw State has been very efficient on offense this year. But it's been impressive to see what the Gamecocks are doing here in Jacksonville, Alabama. Right? I mean, they're just ripping off. They won 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 games in a row. Their last loss was against Southern Miss, where they almost lost by 20 points. So, and they've the only team that they've really beaten the stretch where you're like, okay, it was a really good team, or at least a really decent team, was Delaware. Because they squeezed by Sam Houston, squeezed by Middle Tennessee. So like their offense is putting up some points, but their defense has not been really, clamping down the other team's offenses, and these aren't like world-beating offenses that they're going up against. So they were able to do enough this week to get out with 2-score win here. But while they're still undefeated in conference play, if I was to say, do I feel comfortable with picking them to win the conference? Maybe not right now. I still would lean towards Western Kentucky or even Kennesaw State in a rematch, just because of this defense has not been impressive. I want to see their defense do some more. Congratulations on the win. They beat a very good team here, but I want to see their defense actually shut a team down before I'm going, okay, this is somebody I can see winning the conference.
Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry, I had to sneeze right when right when you stopped talking. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I think it would be interesting to see a rematch between these two teams, and now that you mention it, I kind of hope that happens, because those conference championship rematches, no matter the conference, very rarely go the way we think. Like sometimes we'll think like, oh no, they're gonna beat them bad, or they're gonna do this, or they're gonna do that, or whatever. And then it's either like the same result, or I don't know. I mean, I just feel like it's very rarely what we expect it to be. So yeah, would love to see that.
So I just pulled up the Western Kentucky schedule just because they're in second place in the Conference USA right now. And this week they play LSU, but next week they play Jacksonville State. So it's Jacksonville State 6-0, Western Kentucky at 6-1. So depending on how this all goes, you're probably looking at a rematch one way or another here, either with Kennesaw State or Western Kentucky. And if it's Western Kentucky, they have to play them 2 weeks in a row. So
Right.
that's when things really get funky there. When you have to play a team 2 weeks in a row. So
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to a game that you called. Number 24 USF at Navy. Good game. Now, this was going on while you were traveling, correct? So you didn't get to watch any of it?
Right.
Okay.
I was keeping up with it as best I could, but yeah, it was on in the 11 o'clock window.
Yeah. So without looking at it, can you tell me how many points were scored in the fourth quarter total?
I'm looking at it. So
Well, all right. So 39 total points in the fourth quarter, which is, let's see here. That's yep. So that's more than half of the points in the game. Wild game. Navy pulls it out at home. Congratulations to Navy. That brings them to 8-2, and they're continuing what they've done the last several years, which is just be very solid program, competitive with just about everybody they play, with just a few exceptions.
mm-hmm.
But while Army is,
they're
go ahead.
They're showing the importance of having a quarterback, and so is South Florida, by the way. But of having a quarterback who's in your system, for more than a season, because like Blake Horvath, he's a returning starter, and he led them to what they have, like 2 losses last year. So somewhere along those lines, two or three. They were right there with Army, and for most of the season, because they were setting not records, but it was like the first time since the World War II era that both teams were undefeated and ranked and all at the same time. And Army lost all those seniors, whereas Navy still has a lot of their core players from last year. But most importantly, their returning quarterback who is directing the offense. And we're seeing in South Florida's case, Byron Brown, who missed most of last season, but he was still in the offense, still learning the offense, probably still doing the mental reps. He's played phenomenal this season. So, and you see it in this game. I mean, this is a absolute shootout, between these two teams. So, that you're really seeing what a consistent, consistency of having the same players, or a core group of players, can really do for a team.
Yeah, and obviously we've talked about this before. It's a little easier than it used to be to leave one of the academies, but you still don't see it nearly as much as you do with any other type of school that has competitive sports.
Yeah.
So all right. So congratulations to Navy. They are just working on a better bowl at this point. 2 games left, 8-2. Good season for them so far. Memphis, coming off of their loss, was it last week or 2 weeks ago to Tulane? I'm pretty sure it was last week, but
last week.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's what I thought. But coming off of their loss that was almost not a loss to Tulane, they go to East Carolina and lose again, 31-27. Maybe this is a case of Tulane beat you twice.
Getting beat twice.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, but also, I I was just looking at the standings for the American. We've talked about how um there's a couple conferences like the ACC where it's real jumping at the top. The SEC's got quite a few teams that are close at the top. Up to recently, the Sun Belt was kind of the same way. Well, the American has got like four teams, all with one loss in conference. In East Carolina, when we were looking at games to talk about last week, I kind of skipped over this one because I didn't realize I didn't look at the records close enough. I didn't realize how good East Carolina has been doing this year, and you know, this wasn't a fluke win by East Carolina. Um, I kind of wonder a little bit because the Memphis coach, his name has been kind of bantied about with some of these open vacancies. I'm starting to wonder if maybe how much of this is distractions on his part. And you hate to see that. If you're even on the outside looking in, if you're a prospective, if you're an AD looking for a prospective coach, and he's on your list, and you're like, well, since his name's been bandied about, they lost 3 games, in conference play. Well, then, you're like, well, how well does he handle distractions here? So I'm not saying that's what's going on, but you just kind of wonder, because it does seem like since all this has come up is when they've kind of really had their struggles.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that could be playing a role. I think that's playing a role at several different schools, as a matter of fact. So moving to the Sun Belt, we had an interesting game between. All right, this is funny. So I meant to mention this to you before we started, but Coastal Carolina went to Georgia Southern, and Georgia Southern wins by 5, 45-40. I feel like every time we've talked about Coastal Carolina this year, they've lost. They're 6-4. So maybe we've only talked about them 4 times. I don't know. But like when I saw their record, I was like, that's nuts. Like I thought they were, now I know that sometimes, and App State fans don't want to hear this, but I can in my head kind of conflate the two. Not really, because I know they're different colors, they're in different states, everything, but they're rivals, similar sized schools, Now they're very different types of schools. I mean, one's a beach school and one's a mountain school,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the surprising thing to me is when I was looking at the record as I was writing them down, I'm like, they're 6-4. I would have thought they're like 2-8, but
yeah,
apparently not.
Yeah, and they're right there now. I don't think anybody's going to catch James Madison as far as conference contention. I mean, I think they've only got one conference game left. This is, but they have been hanging right there with James Madison as far as potential to play for the conference championship. Georgia Southern has really kind of come on lately. They're one win away from being bowl eligible. That would give 2, 3, 4, 5. That would give the Sun Belt 6, potentially 7 bowl eligible teams. And I don't think they have that many bowl tie-ins. So you could see, that doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't all get a bowl bid, but that just means, that they're not quite as secure on like the lower ranked teams wouldn't be quite as secure on where they would be going bowling and stuff.
Yeah, now I'm pretty sure that the math works out to where if you win 6 games and the number of bowls changes every year. But I'm pretty sure the math works out to where if you win 6 games, you're guaranteed a bowl. Because
Yeah.
I think there's normally 1 or 2 5-win teams that get invitations, and then sometimes there's a third or fourth. Because every once in a while you'll see a team decline a bowl game when they were eligible. I say every once in a while. That probably happens once a year, once every other year. You have
Yeah.
a team or 2 or 3 do that. But
Marshall had to do that last year.
yeah, well, but that was out of necessity. Like I remember one year. Now
Yeah.
this was way. It was way further back in time than I remember it being, because I thought it was like 10 years ago, but apparently it was like early 2000s. But there was one year where Clemson and South Carolina got in a fight at the end of their game, and they both, as a disciplinary measure, declined the bowl game. And it does happen. You're starting to see more of the convenience factor. Like, for instance, Florida last year declined the first offer they had, which might have been like the Gator Bowl or something, to take the next tier. It wasn't the Gator Bowl, because that's about the same distance. To take the tier down, which was the Gasparilla Bowl, because it was in Tampa. And they issued a statement, and they were just talking about proximity, and it's easier on the players. And you didn't used to see that. I remember I had a girl I went to school with. Her older brother was a linebacker for Houston, but he was about 10 years older than us. So when she and I were in elementary school, he was in college. And I remember my dad took me to Southern Miss to watch Charlie play, because Houston had come to Southern that year, and it was 94, 95, somewhere in there, something like that. And we got to talk to Charlie after the game, and he showed us this awesome watch that they gave him, and told us about all this other stuff that they gave him at the bowl game the previous year. And it used to be, like, in talking to Charlie and the few other, college players that I've known, which I have not known a lot, but they all kind of talk about it like, going to a bowl game is a big deal. You get lots of swag, you get lots of cool, and I'm talking about like nice gifts. And this is before NIL, before anything like that. They're getting, I would imagine within the last 10 or 15 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gifts each player is,
There's a limit on what they can receive. I
Yeah,
think it's
but
like a $500 limit
well, okay, well,
on the swag that
but that's
now, it may have
probably
changed this NIL.
well, that's probably per bowl, because I can tell you what my friend
yeah.
Charlie received in the mid '90s was worth more than $500, 100% guaranteed. So what I'm saying is, like, I wasn't saying like if you go to the Outback Bowl you're gonna get $100,000 worth of stuff, but 2015 Sugar Bowl, I mean, they're getting stuff. But my point is, they probably each bowl negotiates those deals negotiated prior to NIL directly with the NCAA, because they weren't all equal in terms of what you got. You definitely got better stuff the better bowl you went to. But yeah, so anyway, didn't mean to get off on that tangent. But let's go ahead and jump down to the ACC. And Quacker, I don't know if you got to watch this game. I watched less football this weekend just because I was very busy than I have all season. In fact, I watched less football this weekend than I probably have in the last 10 football seasons. Like, this was just, I watched about a game and a half, which is very low for me. But probably 2 games. Because one of the games I watched almost the whole game was the Clemson-Louisville game. And man, let me tell you, it was a good game, but Louisville was trying to give that game away. I think I need to look it up. I think their kicker missed like 3 field goals or something like that. Did you get to watch it?
I did not. I was at my high school.
That's right.
It was their playoff game. They won, so they're going back to state championship game this year.
Nice.
Yeah. So back to back state championship appearances, a chance for back to back for the first time in 30 years. So big deal for that. So I was at that game. But I was kind of keeping up with it while I was there. I mean, I wasn't watching anything, but I was pulling up the ESPN app and looking at the scores and stuff like that. So
yeah. So I was wrong about the numbers. So they had 2 kickers kicking the game, and their short range kicker was 2 of 3, and then they had Nick Keller come in, their long range guy, and he was 0 of 1. But it was 2 of 4 is what they were as a team. But it was a wild game. It was really wild, and Louisville had a chance at the end of the game and couldn't put it through the uprights. But I feel really good for Clemson just because, I obviously thought this was going to be a really, really good Clemson team that was kind of one that returned to form, like a lot of people did, but yeah. I think their players thought that too. And we're sitting almost at the end of the season, and they're 5-5, 4-4. So,
yeah.
So I feel good for them. I hate it for Louisville because they're having a pretty good season, and Louisville is one of those programs. I feel like you can just about mark it down. About every 4 to 5 years, they're going to have a pretty good team. And yeah. I hate it for them, but. Yeah, it was a good game. So I want you, Quacker, to tell us the record of this next team after I said it, because you pointed this out to me at the beginning or before we started. So number 16, Georgia Tech, went to Boston College and won the game 36-34. And what's Georgia Tech's record?
So Georgia Tech, going into this game, was 8-1, 5-1 in conference.
And Boston College?
Boston College was 1-9 and 0-6 in conference.
This game was tied at halftime. Listen to this. Going into the fourth quarter, Boston College was up 28-17. Going into the fourth quarter. Final quarter of play, 19-6, Georgia Tech. Which, by the way, old school Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech. Was that his name? Paul Thompson?
Yeah.
What?
Paul Johnson. Yeah. Paul Johnson.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not winning that game. I second guessed myself when I said that. So that's crazy. So into the game, Georgia Tech leaves 9-1. And basically with a pretty firm grasp on one of the invitations to the ACC championship game, because let me see if they have one more ACC game, and it's not an easy one. It's Pitt. It's Pitt. So
yeah.
Now, I don't know how the ACC does their tiebreakers, but Virginia is sitting with 2 losses, as is Miami. Virginia has one ACC game left, which is Virginia Tech, which it's a rivalry game, so you can't necessarily say this, but you got to think that Virginia probably wins that game. I mean, but let me look at the ACC standings real quick and see how they have it set up, because tiebreakers are a little bit different for each of the schools.
Of course, it's a multi-step process.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. But
head-to-head, win percentage versus common opponents, win percentage versus common opponents by order of finish, combined win percentage of conference opponents, Sports Source analysis team rating score, and then if all that else fails, a blind draw.
So I was actually wrong about Virginia sitting at 2 losses. Virginia has 2 losses overall. They have 1 loss in conference. So here looks like the scenario. So it looks like so you have 4 teams with 1 loss, and those are Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pittsburgh, and SMU. And according to the ACC current standings, that is the order in which they have them. Now, Georgia Tech plays Pitt. The winner of that game is in. I mean, I don't think because that's Georgia Tech's only game left in the ACC. Actually, let me take that back. The winner of that game is not in because Pitt's last game of the year is Miami. So Miami could sneak in by virtue of beating Pitt. Now, if Georgia Tech beats Pitt, then the Miami game matters a lot less because then I think it comes down to Virginia and SMU at that point. And I don't know if Miami is head to head over SMU. They don't. They lost to SMU, and they didn't play Virginia. I don't think so. Yeah. So
Right.
Miami would need a lot to happen. They would need Pitt to beat Georgia Tech likely, and then they'd need Virginia to lose. Yeah, I don't even. I'm just roughly quickly looking at it. It almost looks like Miami may be eliminated, based on the tiebreakers and the head to heads. But yeah, that's interesting. But again, it's like you said, nobody wants to win the ACC. Georgia Tech tried to lose, but they weren't. Boston College was a little too bad for that to happen. Do you remember in 2001, that all-time great Miami team that had Ed Reed and all those other guys on it? When they towards the end of the season, they were undefeated. They were number 1. They went to Boston College. And Boston College was like on the 2-yard line about to score to win the game. And they fumbled, and Ed Reed picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown and won the game. And I was so mad. Because Miami, like all anybody had talked about all season was Miami. And so I was like, all right, I've had enough like talking about Miami. Let's talk about something else. Yeah, so that's kind of whenever I think about late season Boston College, that's what I think about. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, wild, weird ACC. So, moving,
for the ACC, they're gonna want Virginia and Georgia Tech in the conference championship game together because that's going to give them their best chance of. I know there's an automatic qualifier, but if Virginia comes in with only 2 losses and Georgia Tech comes in, say they beat Georgia the last game of the season. After what we saw last year, I'm not ruling it out.
I think they
really
I think they can beat. I think they might beat Georgia. And it's at home, so it's in Atlanta.
Yeah. So, if Virginia comes in with one with just their 2 losses, and Georgia Tech comes in with just a 1 and a win over Georgia, and then Virginia beats Georgia Tech, that's their best hope of getting 2 teams in to the playoff. So you would think that the people in the home office of Charlotte are kind of hoping for that scenario to kind of play out there, so they'll have 2 bites of the apple instead of just 1. Because if it kind of plays out to where you've got two lost teams going into the conference championship game, well then somebody's eliminated with that loss. So
maybe here's the thing though. I think you're right about what they want in that scenario, Georgia Tech, Virginia. But I think you're right for a different reason than you said. I think they want that because they are figuring, and I'm not saying this will or won't happen, but I think they are figuring that if Miami wins out and Georgia Tech and Virginia play for the conference title, they're getting 2 teams in. Um, possibly, possibly a third team is probably what they're hoping for. Just because um, uh, last year they said, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Last year they said that they're not going to punish a team for making the conference championship. I respect the thought, but in practice, I don't think it's realistic, because in this scenario, like, let's say Miami wins out, Virginia and Georgia Tech both went out. That would mean that that both of them would conceivably move up in the rankings from 16 to 19 respectively. So then what do you do? Because it's like, well, we said we weren't going to punish teams for making it, but you can't put 3 ACC teams in because your highest ranked ACC team has has 2 losses. And your well, actually, no, matter of fact, every ACC team has at least 2 total losses except for Georgia Tech. So I think you're right, because I think that gives them their best chance to get multiple teams in.
Yeah.
But if I hate to say it for Miami, but I think, and we've seen this in years past, I think if that scenario were to play out, I understand, if the ACC were thinking, this is what we're pulling for because we want this. But I kind of have a feeling that exactly what happened to Miami last year would happen again. They would just sort of slide, even if they were winning, to make way for the conference champion. And wouldn't it be something if SMU made it to the conference championship again? They'd be 2 for 2. I mean, they're right there. Yeah. They have 1 conference loss. So, but yeah. All right. So let's move to the.
They've got something brewing there.
Like, oh yeah,
that's.
They've got to stabilize it, but they've got a solid foundation, for sure. So, let's move to now the conference with very little drama. I mean, we at this point all but know the conference championship game. There's basically 3 teams vying for it. But before we talk about the actual conference championship, or 4 teams, sorry, vying for 2 spots. But before we talk about that, let's talk about some games. So Arkansas went to Baton Rouge, and I think I told you when we were talking about this last week that I could see this being a shootout because Bobby Petrino, right? Not because Arkansas is great or anything. But it wasn't. It was a defensive struggle. 23-22, LSU wins the game. LSU goes ahead and wraps up bowl eligibility, which not a surprise. We thought that would happen. Other news from the SEC, Florida has officially been eliminated from bowl contention, as has South Carolina, which means 2 of the top 15 preseason teams are, and I know everybody's going to go, well, preseason polls and the SEC, but okay, whatever. It is what it is. This is the system we have. 2 of the top 15 teams in the preseason polls are going to miss out on bowls, and that's just from the SEC. Penn State, of course, also in that boat. And I think there's Clemson. So 4 of them at least, and there could be 1 or 2 more that I'm not thinking about. But anyway,
Clemson still has a chance to get bowl eligible, but
do they?
They're on that. Yeah, I mean they're 5-5, so I mean they'll play South Carolina the last game of the season, which doesn't mean it's an automatic win, but the way it's looking right now, you would kind of favor them for the win in that one. So I don't know who they played this week, but yeah, all they need is 1 more win, so they got 2 chances to get it. So
All right, so Quacker, you're gonna think this is funny. So it looks like we've got an Ohio State fan watching right now. So what's up, Archie Dog? So look, if this is your first time here, thanks for joining us. We don't typically talk about the Big Ten, but I'll tell you what, just for you, we will go ahead and talk a little bit about your Buckeyes for jumping in with us. So give me just a second, and let me get, because I didn't have that page open, and I will get right over there.
So while you're looking at that, Matt, Clemson plays Furman this week. They'll be well eligible. So
Yeah.
they'll be 6-5 after this week. So yeah,
Yeah.
their bowl streak will continue.
All right. So he said, just call me Arch. All right. You got it, Arch. Like Arch Manning. Oh, we have an Auburn fan too. Big man. How you doing? All right. So as promised, Ohio State this past weekend had a barn burner against the juggernaut UCLA, 48-10. So I actually had this game on, and if you guys just joined us a few minutes ago, I watched less football this weekend than I have probably in the last decade. But I had this game on, but was barely paying attention because it's you're not alone. A lot of people do. So, yeah. So I get it. And I think it remains to be seen whether he's overrated or not. But look, it looks like the Buckeyes, man, are doing what they do every year. They have excellent receivers. They have a quarterback who's like a virtuoso. And they're, I don't know, man. It's hard to say this after this week, but I really feel like right now it's Ohio State and South Carolina. Ohio State and Texas A&M are the teams that are the favorites to get to the finals. Okay, so I think it depends. I think if they played Florida's schedule this year, for instance, I don't know that they would struggle in that they would have multiple losses. Do I think they'd have a lot of close games? Yeah. But I also think that SEC argument really applies to teams that aren't Ohio State, because Ohio State, I think the Big Ten's a really good conference, but Ohio State is an exception in that they basically have NFL players in every position group, every year. So, which not every school can say that. So, that's struggle is probably a strong word. But I think, like I said, if they played an Oklahoma or a Florida type schedule, would it be harder than it has been, for them the last couple of years during the regular season? I think so. I don't think it would be, it would necessarily result in losses. Yeah. So, all right. So listen to Big Man, our Auburn fan. I have a question for you. I would like to know who your odds-on favorite for the next head coach on the Plains is going to be. I've got a nephew who goes to Auburn, and he's got thoughts too, but I'm curious to hear yours if you're still there. But let's go ahead and move to our next game. So South Carolina at Texas A&M. Looked like South Carolina was going to pull the impossible. And I, for those of you who don't know, I live in South Carolina. I'm not from here, but so I have a lot of friends who are South Carolina fans. And I was texting with them, and I was like, dude, you guys are up by 4 touchdowns. That's insane. But then they, instead of doing something miraculous, they wound up having one of the worst comebacks in SEC history put on them in the second half. So they lose the game 31-30. it just keeps getting worse for South Carolina, I feel like.
Yeah, this is a team that I really thought going into the season had a chance to be a playoff contender based off what they did last year. But the roller coaster ride under Shane Beamer has continued. It's hard to get a read on how good of a coach he is because like last year they were really big upsets. They had an amazing season last year, probably one of the better ones they've had in Columbus. But this year the wheels are just falling off the train there. Now Beamer says there will be a playoff team next year. We'll see. It's you can't get much worse what they're going through right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, they really they gave A&M everything they could want in that first half, and A&M just came out in the second half and just haymaker after haymaker. I see where Marcel Reed had 439 yards passing in the game. That's not their typical game, but that's what they had to do to come back. And so, I mean, you're seeing that he's a very versatile quarterback. He's, we knew he could throw the ball, but you're seeing that he's not just a run first type quarterback, like a Vic was back in the day, where it was, read option, triple option, and then like RPO. I mean, Marcel Reed, he kind of actually runs to open up passes, passing lanes and stuff now. So you're seeing him really kind of coming to his own here, and that's just making A&M scarier and scarier. I mean,
yeah,
sheesh.
Yeah, it is. And look, at the end of the first half, it was a disaster. South Carolina scored like 14 points or something like that, or it might have been 17 in the last like minute and a half. It was nuts. It was like every time Reed dropped back, it was just deer in the headlights. And then second half, made the adjustments, did what they needed to do, got it done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Coach
yeah,
of the year?
maybe. Definitely gonna have a big wallet, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But before we get to our final game and talk about our season records for our picks, so all right, so Mo, let's show some love, man. It's all love here. We wanna be cool with one another. So so you think John Summerall, he's gonna be a good hire for whoever he goes to. We've talked a lot about the fact that LSU should look at him. Don't know that they will. They should. I think John Summerall would be a good hire. So Eric Morris, you're right. Not a lot of people are talking about him. I guess I would be curious out of those two, which one you would think would, like, as an Auburn fan, you would prefer to have, or if there's a different coach that you'd prefer to have, because I know there's, realistic versus preference. That the LSU fans would prefer to have Nick Saban. I think I'm not one, so I can't speak for it. But
that's everything I've heard is Saban first, Kiffin second, and then I haven't heard like a third. But to me, obviously Kiffin would be an amazing hire for him, but it's hard to overlook Summerall. I mean, just because he's won everywhere. He won championships at Troy. He had Tulane in the conference title game last year where they lost to the Army. Looks like they're probably going to go back this year, maybe against Navy. So what are the odds of them playing service academies 2 years in a row for a conference title? But the luck of the wave there. But he's going to win wherever he goes. I feel like.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mo Lester just said, and yes, I get it. He said DJ Lagway for Heisman. I think he'd have to throw a fewer interceptions if he wants to be considered. But Yeah. Maybe down the road. But all right. So Eric Morris is your number one. I don't know either. You know what's really funny is I look at a guy like Jed Fish. He's been talked about a lot. And like, if I'm being honest, like, I don't know that what he's done at Washington has necessarily been all that spectacular in almost 2 years he's been there now. But then you have guys like Eric Morris who don't get talked about. So here's the thing. You know who Auburn needs to go hire? Auburn needs to go hire Ryan Day. I'm just joking. Don't get mad, Arch. I just said I don't think Ryan Day is going anywhere at all. But
No,
anywhere
he's
at all.
got everything you could ever want.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That's not a job you leave either. So, but all right. So final game is number 11 Oklahoma 23, number 4 Bama 21. All right. This was a great game. I mean, it was fun to watch all the way around. And even though I picked Oklahoma to win the game, I was legitimately a little bit shocked that they I was just joking, man. I was just messing with you. Yeah, you made me lose my train of thought. But no, I picked Oklahoma to win the game, but I was fairly shocked at the way it transpired. But congratulations to them, and I guess no more. What is it? The hoodie of death.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if Auburn's going to upset Bama, but man, that would be something, wouldn't it? I mean, that is one of those rivalries that, everybody talks about throughout the record book. Well, the reality is a lot of these rivalries, the better team wins. Not every time. But the Iron Bowl just gets weird sometimes, and
it's at night too.
Yeah, so that would be something. And I think that most of us across the country and probably the world for that matter are hoping that happens. So we'll see. All right. So any thoughts on that game before we jump into our records for the year?
I really thought Alabama was going to come out, and I thought they would win by around 10 points, just kind of the way they've been playing. Oklahoma's been playing really well. I didn't think they would be able to hang with Alabama quite as well as they did. Montier, coming back from the injury, he's been playing okay, not great. Now this is going on at the same time as the Southern Miss game, so when I was leaving the stadium, I pulled it up and watched the last few minutes of it before I left the parking lot. But this is one, like, when they said it was over, I was like, whoa, okay. It was moving so fast. I was almost having trouble keeping up with,
Yeah.
That last few minutes. But I was really shocked Oklahoma was able to go in. A lot of Crimson in the stadium. Like, you couldn't tell Oklahoma from Alabama fans at all, because they both had the same colors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. Let's keep our kisses to ourselves, but I appreciate the compliment, though. Okay. So, I admit. So here's the thing. I watched the beginning of this game, and Coleman he's a freak, dude. Like, he has one of the best catches of the year. So you might not be wrong about that. So I missed the middle of the game because my boss invited me over to his house to have dinner with his family. And it's like, what are you going to do? So like, I go, and then we get done, and I'm like, all right, I got to go watch the games. And then he's like, hey, we're going to go for a walk. You want to come with us? So like, Yeah, of course. So we went and did that, and then I jumped out. I mean, we had a great time, but then I got back in the car and the game. You know, I got to see the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that was fun, and you know, Oklahoma winning the game is not overly surprising, but is pretty pretty cool. So
That's 2 years in a row too, right? Because they beat them last year too.
you might be right. Last year's starting to leave my brain. No, they did. Yeah, you're right. They did. So, all right, 1 second here. We are just about to jump into our season records. And so, look, if this is you guys' first time joining the show, so we typically talk about the 5 conferences that reside in the Southeast. We do talk about the big picture, particularly towards the end of the season. But you know, we both went to Group of 6 schools, and so we want to give a little bit of love to them. So we talk about the Sun Belt, Conference USA, the American, the ACC, and the SEC primarily. However, once we get to Conference Championship Week and beyond, we will start focusing on the national picture. So then every week we do a preview and a review episode, and Quacker's been kicking my butt this year in the picks. But I had a better week than he did this week, just barely. He went 4-4, and I went 5-3 to bring our overall records. Hang on 1 second. To hold on. There we go. Yeah, I went 5-3. He went 4-4. And that is our season total. So, Quacker, you are at 64-41, and I am at 58-47. So, still lagging behind you, man. Lagging like DJ Lagway. I'm just joking. I think he's a talented dude. I hope he does win a Heisman next year. Although, I do seriously wonder if that's in going to be in Gainesville. So we'll see. All right, comments are getting weird now. So, any final thoughts before we jump out of here, Quacker?
Nah, just thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll be, I guess, live tomorrow night for our NFL podcast, and then
Southbound tomorrow night,
Thursday.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, you can find us on X if you don't have any defecation related tweets to send us, then you can find us there. And where can people find the show, Quacker?
You can find us here on YouTube, on Twitch, and Facebook, Instagram, all with the Alumni House Podcast, and of course on X, Alumni House Pod.
Yeah. Joe Smith, you might be onto something. We'll have to look into that. Hey, thank you guys for joining us. We love doing this. We love interacting with the folks. So, like Quacker said, we're back tomorrow night for Southbound, an NFL podcast. 2 depressed Saints fans talk about the NFC South and the NFL at large, and then we do our college football preview on Thursdays. You guys have a great evening, and we will see you next time.